President Trump is doubling down on calls for Republicans to nationalize elections. Yesterday in the Oval Office, the president called out multiple states for what he described as crooked elections and repeated debunked claims that the 2020 election was rigged. Here's just some of what he had to say.
Look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections, and the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take over.
Now, earlier in the day, Weijia Zhang asked Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt what Mr. Trump means when he calls to nationalize voting. And you'll recall, he first made those comments on a podcast with Dan Bongino. Leavitt insisted Mr. Trump is referring to a bill that would require voter ID.
I don't think any rational person who's being honest with themselves would disagree with the idea of requiring citizens of this country to present an ID before casting a ballot in a federal election.
CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand joins us from the White House with more on this. Natalie, good morning. Clearly, the Constitution gives states the power to run elections. So what is the latest reaction to the president's additional comments?
Yeah, and Errol, the Constitution also gives Congress the ability to alter elections rules, just not the president. So that could explain why the White House is now insisting that President Trump was referring to this GOP election-related legislation, the SAVE Act, or Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, in his comments. The president, when asked about this again yesterday, said that he wants honest elections and that if states cannot do that, he wants lawmakers to do something about it. But Democratic lawmakers are pushing back. They say, you know, between the president's latest comments and last week's FBI raid on an election center in Fulton County, Georgia, they are worried that the president could be setting the country up for unprecedented intrusion into elections. Here's Senator Mark Warner.
I have deep concerns about the fairness of our elections in 26 and 28 right now. I have concerns about the elections in primaries in our country. These kind of actions that have taken place over the last year, as we've seen the systemic dismantling of the very protections that were put in place by, again, the first Trump administration. If it doesn't scare the heck out of you, it should.
Everybody understands that the states are in charge of administering the elections. The Constitution says that. But the Due Process Clause, as well as other federal statutes, provide some ground rules about what you can and cannot do.
Now, while the SAVE Act did pass the GOP House, it faces a huge uphill battle in the Senate, where it would require bipartisan support to overcome the filibuster. It does not appear that the votes are anywhere close to doing that. Now, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he said that he wants to have a vote on the SAVE Act, but downplayed any talk at this point of trying to alter Senate procedure to move the bill forward, although he noted Republicans who want this bill to be passed are going to have conversations about it, Errol.
All right, Natalie Brand with the latest on this at the White House. Natalie, thanks.